Hello, everyone. My name is Manjeet, and I'm delighted to be speaking at the Devsinc Sales Summit today. A little about my background. I'm based out of USA, where I've lived for the last 40 odd years. I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions, where I've been helping companies from outside USA grow both organically and inorganically in USA. The topic that I've selected for today is how to find prospects for your services without a sales team. The emphasis being on without a sales team. I'm assuming that most of the companies here today are small, so this topic may be very timely. Let me start by asking you a question. Do you know how much time you have to get a hook into a Western client? Be it if you're making a call, the first call, or you're sending an email. Would you have about 2 minutes to get across to a customer? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? So take a moment to think of your answer. Well, the correct answer will surprise you. It's only 4 to 10 seconds. So you've got only as little as 4 seconds to get across to a customer for her or him to decide whether they want to interact further or deal with you further. Let me give you an example of a 4 to 10 second hook for my presentation today. Imagine if I came to you and said, I want to show you how you can get or look for qualified prospects without using a sales team. Took about 4 seconds to say that. Will that get your attention? The answer is yes. Because I emphasized on something which was a hot button for you. And I came with a solution. So you would be interested in discussing this further with me. Now, you also notice that I have the word imagine in red. There's a reason for that. Normally, most of us are left brain thinkers in the IT industry. You are a left brain thinker, and the prospect you're trying to reach, chances are she or he would be a left brain thinker. When two left brain thinkers get together, it takes longer to engage. So we use the words like imagine, which moves them from left brain into right brain thinking. So words like that help us engage faster and better with a customer. Now, obviously, you don't want to overuse the words, but a good mix of those words will be helpful. Okay, now let's see. What are the 2 things any small company cannot do without? Take some guesses. Think of your own company. What are the 2 most important things that you need? Okay, the answer is money and clients. Try doing without money for a month, or try doing without a client for a month. These 2 are the most important things that you need to be concerned about as a small business. Money can be in 2 forms. It can be in cash, which you can get from a bank or from investors. Now, we all know that for small companies, that is not a very easy thing to do. You go to a bank. See, banks basically lend money when you don't really need it. So when you need money, banks are not your best friends. Investors are willing to take risk, but not everyone can get an investor, other than if it's your own family or something. Outside investors are tough to get. The second way to get money is in kind. What does that mean? This would be from partners like, say, Devsinc. So kind would mean that they would, for example, carry your payroll. They would provide you with the facilities to sit at, and also based on invoicing, help fund those invoicing. The second thing, as we mentioned, other than money, is clients. Now, clients can also be of 2 types. One, they're profitable. So obviously, if a client is profitable, we want more such clients. The second type of client is one that's not profitable. One of the biggest mistakes that companies from your part of the world do is they stick far too long with a non-profitable client. My advice to you would be run. If a client is non-profitable, cut your losses and move on. I also want to define a term called ICP, which is Ideal Client Profile. This is something which every business should determine what is an ideal customer for them. It could be a startup, it could be a mid-sized company, it could be a product company. And then whenever you go prospecting, you have to make sure that your target prospect is a reasonably good fit with your ICP. I normally think of anything over 60% fit as a reasonably good fit. If that 60% threshold is not met, then that's not an ideal customer for you. Move on. Now I'm going to talk a little about ways to acquire a client in USA. The USA, let's put it that Western, it could be UK, it could be Canada, countries in this part of the world. First way is to have your own sales team in USA. Now, as we all know, this is a very expensive and difficult to manage remotely option. So I don't expect any of you people to be doing this. Second option is to have a blend of sales teams in USA and Pakistan. Still an expensive option because of the US component, and the cultural clashes and finger pointing will be tremendous. If the sales are poor, both the teams will be pointing fingers at each other. Not a desired option. You can sell through a partner channel. This is a good option for small companies like you. You give up a lot of margin and payments can be delayed. So these are things that you need to the pros and cons of that option. Now, the next option would be you get an experienced sales team in Pakistan. It's highly affordable, but very tough to find good salespeople and retain them. You get them and one of your competitors steals them. So, you could do it, especially if it's a family member who's a salesperson, or if you want to do sales yourself, you can do it. And that's like in the next one, I talk of, owner in that role. So if you are in that role of a salesperson, obviously you can do that. But there's an easier way, in my opinion. And that basically is to partner up with companies like Devsinc. And today, you will be able to discuss this option with the Devsinc team that is here. Here are some rough estimates. A small company like yours generally would spend up to 30% of the revenue on acquiring a new customer. Whereas a larger company would be spending about 10% on acquiring a new customer because they've got scales of operation and they've got a reputation. So it's easier for them to get a customer, cheaper for them, not easier, but cheaper, and also easier. This is part of the proposal that Devsinc has for you today, and you will be discussing this later with the rest of the team. So now I want to spend a few seconds on the type of prospects that you come across and what you should do. First type of prospect is they have an existing need for your service. Best type, right? So what do? Typically, most people try to go straight from finding a prospect to closing for orders. It doesn't always work very well. So what we do is we recommend using something called a mini or a trial close. So you will do a mini close, a trial close a couple of times till you get to a close. Don't jump from the black line to the last line close. Try mini closes, try trial closes. An example of a trial close would be, John, if I can find this candidate for you, would you be ready to move in 2 weeks? If he's not ready to say yes to that, that means you have not yet got traction with the customer. If he's willing to give some sort of a okay to a mini close, then the chances are you'll get that order. The next type of prospect is they do not have a need for your service. This is where I find a lot of companies from Pakistan and India and China spend time. They're hopeful that they will be able to turn this customer around. They don't have a need, but you know what? I'm really good. So in talking to me, I will be able to change their mind. No, my recommendation would be leave quickly and move on. Don't waste time on people who do not need your services. I have a rule which I call the rule of 1 to 10. So what we do is, you must always, in fact, you should be doing it. You should do this exercise to determine what's your close ratio. Is it 1 in 10 prospects that you talk to who are willing to work with you? Let's take that as an example for this particular case. 1 in 10 of your prospects will say yes to talking to you further. So this is a mindset that I want you to change. For example, when you meet the first prospect and he or she says no, you should not get dejected. You should get elated, because that means 1 down, 9 more to go. So every time you keep on getting a no, get more and more happier because you're moving towards a yes. It's called moving towards a yes technique. Now, the third type of prospect is they have an existing need, but they're not willing to work with you. What should you do? Yes, those are the type of people I want to work with. So we push to try to close. The exact methodology of closing is beyond the scope of my talk today, but this is something that you can read further or talk to the team out here in Devsinc and discuss this further. So the next question that arises is, so which one of these type of prospects, 3 types of prospects, should you focus on? Obviously, you need to focus on the ones that have an existing need for your services, because that'll be the fastest sell and the least expensive sell for you. So we come to the $1 million question. Okay, how do I find these people who have an existing need? I'm going to talk about 2 methods out here. There are several different ways of doing it, but 2 that you guys, the smaller companies, can do without any expense, without much expense. Let's put it that way. I'm going to discuss site. I'll give you the name of that site in a few seconds, where you can actually go and find warm prospects. Then I'm going to discuss something called the SIC code method of finding prospects on your own. So when you go to this site, let's say you are your team has some Python developers that you want to market. So you'll go to this site and say, look, I'm not particular about the location being New York or Chicago or something. So entire USA, tell me how many Python developers are being looked for. And this will tell you, this is something I did yesterday. And it says there are 22,000 job openings for Python developers. Great, excited? Obviously, you are don't get too excited yet because you don't qualify for all these job openings. So also on the top of there, you'll find this by the date it's posted, remote, salaries, and all those type of things. So I need to focus on, you companies, small companies need to focus on only jobs that are remote. So there are 2 types. They're remote and they're hybrid remote. A hybrid remote is where they let you work from your location, but then you have to come in once in a week, once in a month to meet with them. That may not work for you. So let's just focus on the remote. So there are about 4,000 jobs. Remember earlier there were about 22,000 jobs. It's been reduced to 4,000 jobs. What will you do with the difference? Will you let those 18,000 jobs go by? The answer is yes. We let those jobs that are not relevant to us go by. We need to focus we've got limited bandwidth and we need to focus on only the things that makes sense for us. So just focus on these 4,000 odd jobs. The next question that would come to your mind is, how do I price myself? Okay, what is the going rate for Python? So if you go to the top of the site, you'll find that pay. So click on the pay, and there's a drop down which tells you, the job offerings are from 100,000 to 170,000. So look at the median, and it's about, give or take 120, 130. And somewhere in between is the sweet spot. Now, then look at your cost. Let's say your cost of resource is $10,000, $20,000, whatever. Somewhere in between would be the sweet spot for you. So that's what you will use in your negotiations with a customer. The site that I've been talking about is, write it down, is indeed.com. I'm sure many of you have visited that site, but that is possibly the best place to find all open positions. It's an aggregator. It takes everything that's been posted, and whether it's on LinkedIn or wherever else, and just puts it out there. So this is gold mine, and use it effectively. The second thing that I talked about was the SIC method. Every company in USA has to have an SIC code. Even my small little company had to have an SIC code. It is a multi-digit code. The first few digits give you the generic, like if it's for automotive, General Motors, Ford, everyone will have the first three letters common. And then after that, it starts further subcategorizing. So, take a look at this screen, and maybe, somebody can print this out for you, and or you can just go and do a Google search and get the same information. So how do I find these companies? It's a two-step process. First, I go to Google and say, what is the SIC code for, say, your existing client? So let's say you have an existing client, ABC company. The best way to grow your business is to find other companies like your existing client, because you have a reference point then to give. Look, we did work for this type, you're one of your competitors, and we can do that for you also. So I go to Google and say, what is the SIC code for General Motors Corporation? Assuming that GM is one of my customers. So Google says 3711. Then the next step is, Google, show me all companies with SIC code 3711. And Google will give you a list of all other companies in the USA. There could be tens of thousands of companies with that SIC code. So here is a site called siccode.com, where you can go and put a code. It'll give you the list of the companies and links to those companies. Now, obviously, those links will not be of much use to you guys, because they will give a generic telephone number, and it's very tough selling using a generic telephone number. But on the right-hand side, it'll give you a tab to buy a mailing list. You can actually buy a mailing list for as little as $50, a little bit more, a little bit less, where they'll give you a name of the company, the key decision maker, telephone number. That's the main telephone number. Cell phone numbers are not sold in USA. Main telephone number and email IDs. Another way would be to get somebody on Upwork, upwork.com. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. There are a lot of people, and mostly a lot of them out of Pakistan, and basically Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. Bangladesh I've found to be the least costly and very price effective. But people from Pakistan are also very good. People from India are more expensive. So these people can generate a list for you for, 20 cents, 25 cents each name, with the name of the company, name of the CEO or decision maker, their email, and their cell phone number. Cell phone numbers I will cover in a little bit. You should never be calling cell phone numbers in USA, and I'll explain in a moment why. Okay, so that ends the discussion, and now I'm opening it up to question and answers. I've received a list of questions that were sent in, and I'm going to cover some of them, whatever time permits. And the first question that I want to cover which is asked is, what is the best time to call or email a client, and what is not a good time to call? So let me start with what's not a good time, and the remaining time could be considered as good times. Never ever have your email reach on Monday morning. Because what happens is people are back from the weekend and they get busy with stuff and your email gets, neglected. Never call them at that time, obviously. Never call them on Friday evening. Americans are very particular about when they work hard, and when they play hard. So in the evenings is their private time, weekends is their private time. Anything received on Friday will not be attended to. Do not ever send an email on a weekend or try to call anyone on a weekend. Do not call at 11:30 p.m. because that's when they're getting ready to go to lunch and they don't want to be bothered by you. Or at 12:30 when they come back from lunch, they need to catch up on things that might have happened while they were out for lunch. So don't waste your time calling on that. Now let's take a look at the next question. Can I call a prospect on their cell? You know what? I've seen this happen a lot in Pakistan, India, and that part of the world, where people get calls, sales calls on their cell. In USA, it's a big no-no. Never ever call people on their private cell unless they've given you permission to do that. So keep away from that. So this makes your job a lot more difficult. I understand that, but if you call them on their cell, I can guarantee you they will never deal with you. Another question that's often asked, and this has risen today also, is should I send a company brochure in the first email? We all love our brochures. We spend a lot of time and money creating it. It's like saying my baby is very pretty and I want to show off my baby. So most companies have a tendency to send a brochure attachment. Never do that, because filters in businesses in USA are written to take out any email that has an attachment and send it to junk. So unless you're whitelisted, do not send any attachment. Similarly, no URLs in between, because that'll go into spam. Okay, the next question, let's take a look what I have. How do I address a prospect in the very first call? People from Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh are used to calling people sir, hierarchical, respect. In USA, that's not needed. You can call it, but people prefer being called by their first name. And same with the ladies. So if it's Jenny, say hi, Jenny. If it's John, say hi, John. You will bond better with them. Next question, let me see. This is something which we all make a mistake on when we're trying to prospect. How often should I leave a message for a customer? My answer is never. Never leave a message, because the chances are they will not even, when they start listening to messages, after the first 5 seconds, they will listen to this foreign accent and they'll know it's a call which is a telemarketing call. They will just delete it. So never ever leave a message. Okay, next one. Let's see. Next question that I have is the phone still a good way to prospect for smaller companies out of Pakistan? So if you're reaching out to USA, is the phone still a good way? 10 years ago, it was great. That's what, we used to do. All of us used to do. And I used to recommend that to the companies from Pakistan and India also to do that. Today, it no longer works, because the reason is too many calls. I was talking to a friend who's a purchasing agent in a mid-sized company. And he says, Manjeet, I get on an average 40 calls a day from companies in China, Vietnam, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Australia. And he says, I don't take any calls. I've told my front desk to not forward any calls to me unless it's my personal number that is being called. So most companies have gatekeepers out here and they've got voicemails. So chances are you will not get across. So it's no longer a very effective way of selling. Okay, what is the success rate of an email campaign? Sorry to say it's less than 2%, but still it may be the best one for you people. So send out 100, two people might respond. Nothing to lose, better than telephone. So it might be still a good way to do that, but be aware that the rate is very low. But on the other hand, you can send out lots of emails. So for a small company like yours, this might be possibly a good way to reach out to cold marketing. Okay, I've got time for one more. What is the best way to keep a prospect from forgetting me? What happens is you reach a prospect and he or she says, you know what, I don't have a need for your services right now, and but we'll possibly revisit this later. And you're elated. You consider that as, oh, he's going to buy from me. No, it's not. They're basically just trying to get rid of you quickly. And they found that to be the best way to do that. If they say no, then you'll keep on pushing them. If they say, yeah, come back later, they got rid of you. But, you have to go back later, obviously. How late and how to go back. The worst thing to do is to call them once every X period of time, 2 weeks to a month or something, and say, do you have any work for me? Do you have any work for me? That's the worst way to do it. And 95% of the companies do that. The way to reach out to these people and keep yourself in front of them is a tips newsletter. Basically, you've got some skills, let's say DevOps, and you could start a DevOps newsletter, just tips and techniques. Okay, here is what we tried. This worked, this didn't work. I'm sharing this with you. Very brief. And what's going to happen to that is that newsletter is not going to get deleted, because tips is something that people can use again and again and again. And so I highly recommend doing that. So thank you very much for your time today. And, just one question out here, which I wanted to address which was asked is, are you available if I have a follow-up question? You know what? I am extremely busy at what I do. I don't want to be rude, but I just don't have the bandwidth to be answering individual questions. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to do that. But hopefully you can connect with Devsinc team today. And there are plenty of people out there who can help you with that. So thank you very much for your time and have a good day. Bye now.